Good morning, rise and shine to the morning momentum, your daily dose of a comprehensive rundown of the top stories making the headlines, today being 4th of December 2024. This is a daily compendium of local and international news, human interest stories, current affairs, and expert opinion. Welcome to the broadcast. My name is Alfonsoh. Let's take a look at the top stories making the headlines on the papers this morning. On the front page of the Daily Nation, elections time bomb. Now, voter registration, procurement of systems, and boundary reviews have stalled. It's less than 3 years to the 2027 general election, but Kenya's polls agency is still in limbo without commissioners who would have set in motion key electoral processes, some of which are required to be conducted long before the ballot. And with a simmering dispute over the composition of IEBC's election panel, further delaying the naming of the team, the country is courting a disaster. More of that story is beefed up for you on page 4 and page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. On page 6, in Matters Legislature, why MPs rejected bill that sought to regulate protests. MPs say there's nothing new in the Assembly and Demonstration Bill 2024, as most of its content is already provided for in the Public Order Act. You want to catch up with more insights on page 6. On the cover page of the Daily Nation this morning, doctors now issue a fresh strike notice. A health crisis is looming unless the government resolves doctors' pay grievances in the next 21 days to avert a planned strike. That story is also beefed up for you this morning on the cover page. On page 2 and page 3, learners face uncertainty as 348 boarding schools set to be shut. Ministry releases a list of public and private boarding primary schools that failed to comply with safety measures after the audit. We want to catch up with more of that on page 2 and page 3 of the Daily this morning. So let's move on and take a look at page 2. We get up close and candid. State now orders closure of 348 boarding schools. Now, assessment carried out in September and October 2024 revealed that some institutions had grossly violated the provisions of the safety standards manual for schools. Now, the assessment by ministry around the country found that many boarding primary schools faced safety and infrastructural challenges that put learners' lives at risk. So 348 schools have been closed across different counties in the country, and you have a list of all those schools on page 3. It is a total of 23 counties. Now, on page 3 this morning, TUK graduates take engineers board to court over failure to recognize their degrees. 116 engineering graduates of Technical University of Kenya have taken the Engineers Board of Kenya to court over the failure to register and issue them with licenses to practice. Now, the petitioners accused the board of denying them an opportunity to secure employment over the failure to recognize their degrees and register them as engineers. The TUK graduates have faulted the board for refusing them registration on the premise of the naming or wording of the degree program without taking into account the substance of the degree, which is the same as that in Bachelor of Engineering and Bachelor of Science in Engineering. More of that story is beefed up for you on page 3 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's move on and take a look at page 4, courting disaster. How dysfunctional poll agency is a ticking time bomb. Now, young Kenyans getting their national identification cards for the first time have since become the major casualties as IEBC cannot carry out continuous voter registration. The polls body cannot supervise or conduct elections, carry out delimitation of constituencies and wards, and cannot conduct continuous registration of voters, says IEBC Chief Executive. So you want to catch up with more of that on page 5 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's move on and take a look at page 6. Why MPs rejected anti-demos bill. Now, proposed law 6 to give sweeping powers to state to clamp down on protests. Bill sponsor Geoffrey Ruku advised to tread carefully not to curtail rights provided in the Constitution. Now, at a glance, proposals contained in the bill, the Assembly and Demonstration Bill 2024 seeks to repeal Section 5 and 6 of the Public Order Cap 56 and give police sweeping powers to prevent demonstrators from going to a different location or from deviating from the route specified in their notice. It also outlines tedious and long processes of seeking permission from the police, which includes 3 days prior notice. Any person who intends to hold assembly or demonstration would be required to notify the regulating officer in advance by providing full names and physical addresses, as well as those who will control the demonstrators. That story is beefed up for you on page 6 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's take a look at page 8. MPs now want power deals signed in Kenyan shillings. Now, they noted most of the IPPs, including those locally owned, are dominated in foreign currencies. Committee on Energy has recommended the amendment of the Energy Act 2019. More of those insights on page 8. And now into the health sector on page 9. Health Ministry has no title deed. State in the process of getting ownership papers. Medical Services PS Harry Kimtai made revelations in Parliament yesterday. Now let's dig deep into that a little bit. The Ministry of Health lacks title documents for the land on which its headquarters, Afia House, and the adjacent Afia Annex building stand, a parliamentary committee has been told. Now, this revelation comes amid reports that 8 acres of land belonging to Madari Teaching and Referral Hospital have been encroached upon by an undisclosed private developer who has erected a temporary fence on the unfenced portion of the property. Now, on page 10 this morning on the Daily Nation, why Gachagua rejected pressure to resign as DP and took on his critiques. Pundits give a scorecard on gamble taken by President Ruto and the former deputy president. Critics laud decision as a bold move that will have huge implications in the 2027 political calculations for the vote-rich Mount Kenya. It's a win gamble when President William Ruto sponsored a bid to impeach his deputy Rigathi Gachagua, who in turn refused to take a soft landing of resigning and instead opted to confront his accusers. Over a month after Mr. Gashagua's removal from office and his replacement with Professor Kithure Kindiki as the deputy president, there has been notable change of political fortunes for the two protagonists. More of those insights are beefed up for you on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's take a look at page 12 now. MPs hand banks reprieve on 10 billion core capital rule. Now, banking lobby had complained that time given to effect rule was short. The committee agrees that core capital does not match the banking industry growth. Still on page 10, MPs clear Mohamud to take over from Mbarak at EACC. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Abdi Ahmed Mohamud, is set to become the commissioner's next boss. This is after the National Assembly's Justice and Legal Affairs Committee approved his nomination in a report tabled in the House following his vetting. That story is beefed up for you on page 12. Now, on to 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, defying tradition, how Samburu women are rewriting their stories of hope and resilience. Approximately 80 women have started income-generating activities after receiving counseling. Samburu Women Empowerment Program serves as a refuge for survivors whose safety is at risk. More of those insights are beefed up for you on page 13 of the Daily Nation this morning. Now, let's shift gears quickly and take a look at the expert opinion, the place of data protection in future of financial services. Now, many customers are becoming increasingly privacy conscious and their expectations for data security are only rising. So then, what is the place of data protection in the future of financial services? More of that is beefed up for you on page 14. Let's take a look at page 15. A policy blueprint for era of artificial intelligence. Now, strong government policy is crucial for unlocking Africa's artificial intelligence potential, and new research confirms these critical links. So also more insights on that on page 15. Now on to the letter of the day. Junet public participation is critical. Suna East MP Junet Mohammed's proposal to eliminate public participation in development projects has sparked significant debate. He argues that consultations with citizens and stakeholders create unnecessary delays, stalling vital initiatives. More of the letter is on page 16. And for the motoring enthusiasts, you have the DN2 motoring this morning. It's all about the head-on collisions. Technically, the severity of a collision depends on how fast you are going, how hard and heavy the object you hit is, and how quickly the crash will bring you from speed to a stop. That story is beefed up for you on the DN2 motoring article. Let's shift gears and quickly take a look at county news this morning. We start with Kisii. Twin deaths. Now, Medic's last call to mother. Kisii Teaching and Referral Hospital medical intern Vincent Bosire Nyambunde, whose body and that of a woman were found in a flat in the Nyamataro area of Kisii town, had called his relatives moments before his death. Bosire's relatives told journalists at their home in Rigoma in neighboring Nyamira County that he had called his mother to inform her he had been assigned to work in the intensive care unit. Also this morning in Turkana County in the mining sector, Turkana in gold rush as Kakamega to get a refinery. It has attracted dealers from Uganda, Tanzania, and South Sudan. The county government allows two companies to invest 5.8 billion shillings in the facility. That story is beefed up for you on page 17 this morning. Also celebrating International Day of Persons with Disabilities. This is in Uasin Gishu County, where the Deputy Governor Evans Kapkea, accompanied by other officials and a group of persons living with disabilities, cut a cake to mark the International Day of Persons with Disabilities in Eldoret City yesterday. Now, let's move on and take a look at Trans Nzoia County. EACC targets 8 in probe over illegal 1.3 billion shillings ADC land deal. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is investigating 8 suspects over alleged illegal transfer of 1.3 billion shillings Agricultural Development Corporation in Trans Nzoia County. 6 suspects have since recorded statements at the EACC's North Rift Region office on the alleged fraudulent transfer of the 666 acres of land. Now, also game changer, water plan changes face of remote West Pokot villages, pasture, water security, fuel conflict among communities. KVDS 880 million shillings project will improve livelihoods, boost developments in semi-arid region. You want to catch up with more of those insights on page 20. Briefly, let's take a look at Nakuru County. Lobby wants Kihika jailed over Lake Nakuru pollution. A lobby wants Nakuru Governor Susan Kihika sent to civil jail for 6 months over the failure to stop the pollution of Lake Nakuru. Baboon Project Kenya told Justice Anthony Ombwayo, Ms. Kihika and Nakuru Water and Sanitation Services Managing Director James Nganga have failed to ensure court order issued in September is complied with. The lobby said solid toxic industrial waste is still being dumped in the lake. In Nairobi County, poor state of Mudhurwa bus park asks PSV drivers. Matatu operators have raised concern over the poor state of their designated terminus at Nairobi's Mudhurwa market. They said that replacing vehicle parts has become costly due to regular breakdown as a result of huge potholes. You want to catch up with that on page 20 of the Daily Nation this morning. Let's quickly shift gears and take a look at the international scene. Iraqi fighters in Syria to battle rebels, but Hezbollah stays out. Russia's entry into the fighting in 2015 turned the tide in Assad's favor. Rebel storm of Aleppo is the biggest success of anti-Assad fighters for years. You want to catch up with more of those insights on page 21. Briefly, let's take a look at The Hague. ICJ holds climate change hearings. Now, the International Court of Justice, ICJ, began public hearings on Monday on legal obligations related to climate change under international law. The proceedings were presided over by ICJ President Nawaf Salam, while representatives of countries including Vanuatu, South Africa, Albania, Germany, Antigua and Barbuda, Saudi Arabia and Australia presented oral statements. You want to catch up with that also on page 21. And in Goma, 9 killed by ADF rebels in DRC, military sources. At least 9 people were killed in an incursion involving Allied Democratic Forces rebels overnight on Sunday in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, according to military sources. The rebels attacked PK-20, a village on the Mbau Kamango Road in Beni, Eastern North Kivu province, and that story and more of its insights is beefed up for you on page 21. In other stories, Namibia's ruling party takes lead as vote tally continues. Namibia's ruling SWAPO party led both the presidential and parliamentary races yesterday, a week after voting took place in an election marred by technical challenges. SWAPO, which has governed the Southern African nation since leading to it to independence from apartheid South Africa in 1990, fielded Vice President Nutembo Nandi as its presidential candidate. You want to catch up with more insights on page 21 of the Daily Nation this morning. That brings us to the end of international news. We take a quick look at the business news this morning. Now, bondholders Stanbic lose as ARM saga closes. Cement company placed under administration in August 2018. Liquidators say unsecured creditors are staring at a total loss of about 9.6 billion shillings. Briefly, in the innovation industry, COP feted for creating coffee trading system. The Cooperative Bank of Kenya has been feted for the design and development of the direct settlement system, which has so far settled $240 million in coffee sales at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange. The lender was named winner in the banking sector at this year's C10 100 award that recognizes IT initiatives that have transformed businesses and operations across the African continent. Now, let's take a look at the banking sector. Equity Group boss joins World Bank Council. The World Bank has tapped Equity Bank boss James Mwangi to be a member of its newly established advisory council that seeks to gather policy and program strategies on global job creation. Now, in ride-hailing, Yego and SGA security partner for safety of travelers and drivers. The digital taxi hailing company Yego Mobility has partnered with SGA Security to enhance the security of passengers and driver. Under the partnership, SGA will provide rapid response services and real-time monitoring of Yego's operations. That's some good news there on safety of those who consume the cab carrying industry. Now, let's quickly take a look at sports news on the Daily Nation this morning. We start with the Chepsaita cross country. Now, World Athletics Gold Label meet on Saturday. Turf written all over Great Chepsaita course. The new route has lumpy ups and downs, 7 turns in 2 kilometers, all at high altitude. Now, you want to catch up with more of that on page 29. In matters golfing, Kenya finished third at All Africa Ladies Golf Tournament. Now, Kenya put up a brave fight to clinch the bronze title in the All Africa Ladies Golf Challenge Trophy 2024 at the Tazegut Golf Club in Agadir, Morocco over the weekend. The Kenya ladies team, made up of Vipingo from Njoro and Mudaigas Bianca Ngesu, and managed by Kenya Ladies Golf Union Chairman Jen Zibo, produced rounds of 71, 75, and 75 for 146 in day one. More of those insights are beefed up for you on page 29. Now, let's move on swiftly and take a look at the FKF national elections. Kempes Owino, my office will be free of corruption. Ex-International will ensure inclusivity, transparency, and accountability in his team. More of that story is beefed up for you on page 30. Lastly, on sports news on page 31, on Basketball African League qualifiers, key ingredient that fueled Nairobi City Thunder to historic qualification. Thunder were due to play Cape Verde's Creole Stars in East Div final yesterday night. Now, that brings us all to the end of sports news. Let's close the broadcast with the cover page of the Daily Nation this morning. Doctors' planned strike to coincide with festivities. Now, the national and county governments accused of re-enacting on the agreement. Medics Union says members will not go back to work unless their demands are met. Also, still in the health sector, the health minister runs into trouble with legislators over social health insurance fund. The health cabinet secretary, Deborah Baraza, yesterday ran into trouble with parliamentarians over the new social health insurance fund during a meeting with members drawn from the two houses. In the informal meeting, lawmakers said that the teething problems of the new system are yet to be addressed as Kenyans continue to suffer. Now, with that story of the health minister's troubles yesterday with the parliamentarians, we come to an end of today's session of the Morning Momentum. Thank you so much for staying with us. By extension, our heartfelt gratitude goes to all those who made this broadcast a success. Behind the lens, Peter Ngituyu, and the Chief Controller, Peninah Wachera. See you tomorrow, same time, same place. Until then, do have a beautiful day. I have been your host, Alfonsoh.